Hi, and welcome back to Indie Housing Market. It's our first podcast of the new year, 2024. Happy New Year, you guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I'm Shelly Walters with FC Tucker and the Shelly Walters Realty Group. And today we have Shane Peterson with Home Experts.
Home Experts of Indiana.
You've switched companies, and I still try to say it the correct way. Home Experts of Indiana.
Sweet. We'll start that over. I probably should have introduced myself right there. But he leaned down. I was like, he's going to say some shit.
No. She introduced me, and I thought, okay, we're good.
Yeah. And we're fucking
I just
going.
was like, it got real quiet.
It got real quiet. It got real quiet, man.
Are we just going to start that over?
Yeah, let's start that over.
Welcome back to the Indie Housing Market podcast, and this is our first one of 2024, so Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Today, we have Shane Peterson here with Home Experts Inspection Company, so we wanted to dive into the inspection process, which we all know we don't really like that process time period, so kind of discuss all the processes. I'm Shelly Walters with FC Tucker and the Shelly Walters Realty Group.
And I'm Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker. So inspections... I don't know. There's just such a misnomer with them. A, of what they provide. B, there's a lot of uncertainty, especially if people aren't familiar with, let's just say the construction process. I don't even want to talk about new construction because I know we're going to talk about that. But like what it goes into building a house, the type of materials that are, what's normal, what's abnormal, what's a risk, what's a future risk, et cetera. We were talking about mold. We're going to talk about that, but you're in this weird place where, for you as an inspector, people are either looking for you to find the worst, right? Or then they expect more than is possible with a home inspection, right? The biggest thing, it's visible by nature.
So
right?
You're saying it's a no-win situation.
It's a no-win situation,
Okay.
100%.
You
100%.
just described my career.
Yeah. So you're 100%.
Sometimes ours can be too.
Right. So even
Not
though
as
they
bad,
sign
not as
paperwork,
bad.
understanding what the inspection is, 6 months down the road, they want to be like, inspection was bad. And maybe that is the case sometimes, but it's not what people think in the first
Or
place.
the process of moving into the house and 7-8 months down the road, calling you and going, you didn't catch this.
And you were correct. It happens.
It does.
But it's not.
But
if
it's already
not
happened since they moved in.
Right, but it's not the majority. The
Right,
majority,
it is
we
not.
do the inspection. We send it to the client. We send it to you. And I never hear from anyone ever again about how it went or what was fixed. Because sometimes I wonder, I found that. Wonder what they're going to do about it. And
Yeah.
I never know. And that's the majority of them. But yes, every week I get a phone call with, hey, I've got a question about the inspection. Or,
Right. And you're so
hey,
good about answering those questions.
Your inspector missed something.
Yeah.
And it's just like what you have to do. It's customer service. That just because the inspection's over doesn't mean they're not my customer anymore, right? They paid me for service, and I just have to go look into that. Whether it's sending one of my inspectors back out, because they're the one who saw it, right? Not me, unless I'm the one who did it. I don't know. I probably have never even seen the house before.
Yeah.
Well, and we talk about that. What you're sending out is
Right.
usually roughly 50 to 60 pages.
Well, I think I could send out a blank report that's probably 30 pages because of all the legalese.
Yeah.
and just
that's,
the formatting.
That's kind of what I want to talk about is, okay, so a standard perfect house, you didn't find a thing, is still going to be 30 pages.
It's probably 20, 30. First off, I've never had one.
Right,
Never.
right, yeah.
And it's
not even on a new
not
build.
even on
and
a
we're
new
going to
build.
talk about new builds.
But
absolutely.
that report's still 30 pages long.
So that's really good way to know that if you're talking to your buyers and sellers, which we want to talk about setting expectations as a listing agent and a buyer's agent, but it's already going to be 20 to 30 pages.
Yeah.
So to have things
And that's
wrong
just
with
to
the house,
check items that they're fine.
right?
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So we get to 50 or 60 pretty easily.
And an inspection itself, in my opinion, obviously not all inspectors or companies are created equal. One of the things that I really like is when it's a digestible format, and not all of the reports are in a digestible
They're also hard
manner.
to read if you don't get that company
Some of
all
them
the
flow
time.
so well.
Right.
Some of them have like multi tabs and all.
Right.
And I'm just like, whoa! Like, what are we doing? Like, this is too much. Even
And
as an
it's too
agent,
much
I look
for
at
the
it.
buyer.
Oh, for
buyers,
sure.
you know,
By a
so
long
like
shot.
if we can't figure it out,
So what happens is they get overwhelmed,
Yes.
they shut down, and they get afraid. Instead of walking through it, what matter, and you know that's what we do. I always tell my clients, you're gonna take a day. I need you to digest this, and then the next day we will go over it once you've digested it, and we'll go through it piece by piece. You take your notes, I'll take my notes, and we'll compare notes. That's how I do it, because it's just a lot to digest. It
Right.
just flat out is.
even for us, I mean, you're looking at all
yes.
of it and you're going, well, is my buyer going to be worried about this because the last 6 haven't? But this is a hot button for this one, you know? So you never really know. Like I used to be sort of in a way where I would go buyer and I go, I think this is a no problem, no problem, no problem. I don't go that route anymore. I don't tell them what I think is a no problem. I have them physically tell me, what are your concerns? And then we discuss them and I ask, why are these your concerns? And then I can feel how bad they feel about it. But never can you go towards a buyer and just say, this is okay, this is really okay, this is never really a big deal. I've seen it many times, whatever. It's you got to hear what their concerns are.
It is, but to this point where you're in this lose-lose situation, right? I just had one, and you know when the people were getting insurance, they saw that there had been a claim, and back in 09, the primary bathroom had somebody left it on and it overflowed or whatever, and there was a big claim, right? So first of all, you don't keep records back that far. And then there was this idea of like, well, what happened and how do I not know there's not mold behind the walls? And I'm like, well, first of all, it's a fundamental lack of understanding of what happens when you file an insurance claim. You know, an insurance claim is meant to be done. They're going to get in there. They're going to tear everything apart. It's going to be 100% done professionally, warranted, all of this stuff.
And
right?
if it's done well, you have no idea they did it.
Correct. And so the only way you do is because we're doing full disclosure, you know, which is what we always do anyways. But and it's like, well, what's behind the walls? And I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
Wood.
yeah,
It's-
wood
yeah.
insulation. Like, well, what if there's mold back there? I was like, but that means you don't understand an insurance claim. But it created this vibe within the transaction of they're like, well, prove to me there's not this back
Well,
there. And I'm like,
they're
I
hiding
can't,
something.
man.
You're
Like,
already starting off on the wrong foot.
correct.
And everything after that is tainted by the nagging thing in their head. Well, there could be mold.
Even
in the
though,
wall.
like, we're like,
And they're hiding it.
we're
Yes.
giving all this information that we're not even required to give. And I'm like, this and this and this and this. And like, well, we're just concerned you're hiding something. I'm like, I'm literally giving you everything. I don't know what I'd be hiding. I would, if I was,
Right.
I would not
Well,
be giving. So,
I mean, you guys do air quality tests. So
We
you
do.
can
Do air
see
quality
if there's
tests, yeah.
mold spores
Yeah.
in the.
And-
And go
and some-
specifically in that room and see if there's mold spores in the air. And if there is, maybe then we can be concerned.
but people don't want to pay for that because it's expensive.
Right. Well, that's probably the solution on that one is
Yeah.
the best thing we can do without doing damage is an air quality test.
Correct.
We'll pull a sample outside. We'll pull a sample down in that basement or wherever it was, and
Compare
we'll
the
compare
two.
the two.
Yeah.
And it usually is just going to clear it right up.
Yeah.
So
Which gets to what are some of the other ancillary ones that you offer, and let's discuss when or we shouldn't even think about doing them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So the most two common ancillary services are termite inspections, all right, and radon inspections.
Yep.
Because termites, that's the cheapest one, and so most people are okay with spending that extra money.
So if it's a 2020 house, it's 4 years old, and no real wood on the house.
Well, if it's that age,
Well, I mean, I know inside there's
right,
wood.
right.
But,
If it's that age and the water's been managed properly, all right. Termites love wet ground. Probably don't need a termite inspection.
But if you're in Broad Ripple
And
or
you're in
Arden
Broad
Wood,
Ripple,
Right,
and
yeah,
it's a 100-year-old
Or
house.
in the
Yeah.
wood, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's
a lot of moisture there.
There's a discussion of what your concern level is. Would that house even have termites at
Right,
this time?
right. And then radon's the other one, and it's fairly misunderstood. So my people ask me all the time, well, we're on a slab, it's a crawl space. I don't really need a radon test, do I? This is very simple. The EPA recommends a radon inspection on every real estate transaction.
I've seen radon at an 11 on a slab.
Yes, right. And what I did there is I just took all the blame for, do I really need it? Well, I'm not making that choice. You're not making that choice. The EPA has already made it.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
they just need to decide if they want to take the EPA's advice. But yes, I have pulled high numbers on a slab. No, I'm not sure ever in 11. That's pretty high on a slab.
The one that I don't know about, it was in Kokomo.
Okay.
I don't know why I said that. It's not like Kokomo.
Well,
That's higher
well,
radon.
but
Well,
Indiana
right, but you
is
just don't.
known-
That's what
You just don't know. It's spot specific to a
correct.
certain extent.
But
So-
Indiana is known to have high radon, period.
Correct.
So if you're in Indiana,
But
check it. If
what
it's
it-
going to be a problem for you down the road, the system's $1,100 to put in.
Well, and if they don't check it, they're going to live there. And when they sell it, maybe somebody will.
Right.
And they may. And at that point, if they're going to have to pay for a mitigation system, they might as well do it before you live there.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I'd pay
yeah.
for the test because if you got to get a mitigation system, what I always tell people, you're paying for this one way or the other, right? So
Right.
if you don't do it now or have the seller do this remediation, I promise you will be when you sell this
Right.
house,
Yeah.
right? Like that's
Right.
just what's going to come
And they're
down
just
to.
rolling. And what a lot of inspections come down to is, again, we're just gathering information and sharing it.
Yeah.
And when you decide not to have us gather that information, whether a whole inspection, which thankfully we're past that, or these ancillary services, then you're rolling the dice on whether there's an issue with that. Okay.
Well, and on with radon as well, we know also some houses we walk into have a radon system, so people will go, "Oh, we don't have to test it."
You gotta
I've
make
had
sure it's working.
Yeah, I've had many times where a radon system is in the house. It's not working.
Well, and that's another one the EPA recommends a house get tested even with a mitigation system every 2 years. Do you know how many callbacks I get for we've done a radon they bought the house, we did a radon test, a mitigation system got put in.
I'm going to err on 0.
Zero. Yes. I'm not sure I've ever been called back. Hey,
As somebody
we
who
wanna
lives
check-
in a house
Yeah.
with a system
We would've-
and is in the industry, I don't do
We want to
that.
check 2 year. It's been 2 years. We want to check. It doesn't happen. It's out of their mind at that point. The system's working. Everything's fine, and it's not going to get checked again until the house gets sold. And that's only if it has a system. We're fine. We
Well,
don't need to
I
check
think
it.
we're our own worst clients. I say that about myself all the
Oh my
time. But
gosh, yeah.
I had a house we bought brand new, no radon mitigation system in it. And then when we went to finish the basement, we decided to go ahead and check the radon. At that time, we'd been living there for maybe 9 years, 8 years. It came back at 12.5.
Okay.
I still didn't put a system in. And my daughter bedroom was downstairs in the basement. So I'm like, can't be that bad. So now
She doesn't smoke. If you smoke, you have a 50% higher chance of lung cancer with
Right.
radon.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't smoke, so neither did Lindsay. But the thing is I was like,
So we're fine.
I
Oh my
was,
gosh.
back newer. I was probably 3 years in the business when that whole decision was made, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's just a crazy. What could it do to me?
Right. What it comes
Kill you for the record, people. Kill you.
The favorite for me is we'll do a test and it will come in at 3.9.
Yeah.
Okay. And the agents sit there going, yes. All right. We don't have to deal with it.
List agent.
Right. And then, sometimes even the buyer's agent, because then it's
Less
less negotiation. Okay. It's one thing off the table. But then our client will, 3.9, that's so close. And what I tell them is, first off, the highest number we've ever pulled is 75. So in the big
saw a
scope
90
of
once.
right, in the big scope of things, 4, which is the EPA protocol,
Right.
is pretty low. Second,
They didn't
If you're-
err on the side of 4.1 gives cancer either.
Right,
Right.
well,
Like, there's a buffer,
Well,
I'm sure. There.
and
I'm
then
not an expert on this.
the
We'd have to
follow
call
up
the EPA,
there
but-
is, if you're that concerned about it, spend the $1,000 and put in a mitigation system.
You're tapping.
I'm sorry, I'm being yelled at because I tapped the microphone. I apologize.
If you're concerned about it, $1,000 puts in a mitigation system, $1,200 now maybe,
Yeah.
and then you don't have
They're
to worry.
getting more
They don't have to
expensive.
worry about it. So just if that's your concern, do it.
Yeah.
It's like fight your battles.
Yeah.
Tell me your top 10 concerns and please put them in order, because we may have a seller that says, too bad, so sad, you're not getting anything.
Right.
We're back to a little bit more concessions, thank goodness. You don't have to just say you can inspect, but you can decide if you want to buy that house that's in really bad shape. But the other thing is looking at them is 60 pages makes it look like the house is falling apart.
It does.
It does, and that's part of the reason we recommend our clients come to every inspection. Okay,
Yes.
because the way I put this, picture your client in bed at night on their phone or tablet or whatever. They've gotten the email for the report. They click on the link. It opens up, and they're sitting there reading it. Okay, It's 60 pages. They're super excited about this house. They've looked at 20 others. Maybe they put in offers on 3 others, didn't get them. They're so excited that this is the one we finally got it. My job is to come in and tell them everything that's wrong with it.
Yeah.
Do you know how hard that
and
is?
some of them
Yeah.
aren't really important, but you have to call it out.
Correct.
Which is what makes it 60 pages. And then you specifically say on there, should have an expert look into this to see if it is an issue.
Which is why I always try to envision, and I think agents should also, your client in bed at night, reading that report. And,
Sounds
and
creepy.
how,
I was
well,
gonna say, do they sleep
No, it
well?
did.
Like,
I just-
do they have
I just
PJs
said that.
on?
Do they have to be
Yeah.
in bed? Like, why can't they be at the kitchen table here, bud?
yeah. Because most people are
Yeah,
just
I
like,
know.
okay, on the couch. But they get that, and it's the free time they've got, and they're reading through that report, and they can't process it.
Yep.
Okay.
And they're spun out from the day already
Right.
just because of stimulation
And-
throughout the day, right?
and
Of their
And
jobs,
especially if they
kids,
were
whatever.
there with you and you kind of made them.
Well,
'Cause
if
you'll
they
make
were
them
not
feel good.
if they were not there,
That's even
then they're
worse.
reading it. Now okay. Here's the reason I do the bed thing, just to try to save that so it's not creepy.
It's too late, but let's go.
Dang it. Maybe I shouldn't have brought it back up. So, are they going to sleep that night? Or are they sitting there worried? And then how early are you getting a text message? 5 a.m. They
we
haven't.
will get it at 1 in the morning.
Okay, yeah. Well,
If
I was
if
thinking
it's this situation,
3, 4 a.m. They haven't
Yeah.
slept, and
Yeah.
you're now getting phone calls and text messages. What are we going to do? There's all this stuff wrong. Simply by coming to the inspection, allowing us to go through the
100%.
report with them. We actually write it on site. I'm trying to be done with it before we leave the house,
Yeah.
and I present the actual report. That's our goal every time, because I want to take that. Clients don't have the knowledge base, they don't have the experience that you have as agents or that we have as inspectors. Well, I can simply just talk them through every issue and answer questions right there while we're standing in the house.
Plus, you help them know about the house.
Correct.
Here's the water shut
Yes,
off.
teach them.
Yeah.
This is this and
I
this.
tell my clients, because I do get the question, do you go, or should they go? And I always encourage people to go because when they're present, an inspector will teach you what looks like a big deal, but is a small deal. But
But
will
you
also
have to
teach
call
you,
it out.
Yeah.
right? But it'll also teach you what looks like a small deal and is a big deal, right? Something
Yeah.
as simple as, soffit's starting to have some damage. Well, that means you got a gutter problem. It can go in. And then you're going to have issues down the facade, like whatever it may be.
Right.
Like
Or
that,
the
that can go from
the
a
mildew mold thing.
the mildew mold.
So you're saying there's something here on the shower. You're saying I don't think it just needs some bleach, whatever.
Well,
but
I'll
you
tell
have
it-
to be careful
I'll-
about that.
Right. I'll tell agents also, if you don't trust the inspector you're using enough to send your client there and have your inspector talk to them and explain things to them
And not scare the
without
heck out of them.
scaring them, then you probably need to find a different inspector.
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes
And you're
There's a
really
trust-
good. I'm going to
there's
say
a trust
your whole
issue in a
crew
relationship
is
there.
so good
Yeah.
about that. But
sometimes you
gets-
get like a client. This happens very, very rarely. And like, well, I want to do this one for 175.
I got
and
Uncle
you're just like,
Joe.
oh my goodness.
Uncle
oh,
Joe's
what
an
are we doing?
inspector.
Yeah.
And we
I'm
get
like, this
that
is a pretty big deal. Like maybe we should. This is not this
Don't-
where we use Kohl's bucks here. Like I'm not saying we got to buy the most
it-
expensive, but let's not go with the cheapest.
It
here.
happens every week. People call, they get or we'll give them a quote for the inspection. We'll keep in communication and, I found somebody cheaper.
Yeah.
And I always just, is that really how you want to be basing who you hire your
It is.
inspector on?
It's
'cause
a thing.
It's
Yeah.
hiring a friend is like, please don't. But you
Yeah.
can't force them
I
to do
can't.
anything. And hiring a friend, please don't do it.
Just to educate people. So the client's going, right? Or the family members, which is not a big deal to me
Yeah.
either.
What do you think about parents going?
I'm fine with it.
I
So,
love it because
yeah,
I get to insert my knowledge
yeah.
over the dad. I'll
Yep.
just be honest.
Well, when I've been doing this for 12 years now, but I remember the first couple of years, the uncle or dad who's a contractor would come.
Oh, yeah.
And it'd be a little intimidating. I was just like, okay, I got well, now I've been doing it long enough. No, yes, I'm going to educate them to some extent.
Yeah.
I also think I want the clients there, but they may have seen that house and been in there for 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
A 3+ hour inspection is a great time to just come, walk through the house, take some measurements, show it off to your parents. I've got no issue with any of that.
Yeah.
They can accomplish all that, and we can still communicate through the issues in the report. They don't have to follow me step by step, and truthfully, no one does anymore. It's very rare.
And
And they're you got to understand what they're there for. And I think agents get concerned about they're there to blow it up. They're not. It's a family member who cares about their child, right? Who is trying to protect them. But then also, like as a parent myself, like my children come to me for advice, and I'm trying to insert value, right? I'm not worried about it. I always get the dad who's been like, I've bought and sold 5 houses, and I'm like, in 30 years. Like I do 6 a week, you know, like we have 20 right now, you know, like I'm not intimidated by it. But I also don't need to tell him I'm not, like I also then value his opinion, and then, you know, I need his trust as well. And so like I have to add value to him as well in like what he's saying and be like, hey, well, you know, because he's doing it off of information that's usually 15 years old. I'm like, oh, well, these things have changed since then, et cetera.
But
And they just don't know, and it's okay.
The great thing you're doing there is you know that those parents can cause a problem, and so you're there to
and
kind of head them
this
off.
is what
100%.
I'm going to is you're there. So
I go to
agents-
100% of my inspections.
Agents need to be there, if anything, the
Yeah.
last 30 minutes or whatever. This may be the only time you meet these parents. And
Yeah.
if they're having a bad situation going on in the house or dad's really over, you know, zealous about everything, and he walks away, he could blow the deal up if nobody was there to discuss, you know. And that's, I think agents need to go to every
We
inspection.
do. I mean, it's where I learned the most about houses.
Exactly.
You know, you got to think how many inspections. I mean, just this year we did 100 homes, probably 50 of them, or 40 or 50 of them were purchases. The rest were listings. So all of those, right, we go into. We've been doing that for years. And I always tell people I get there an hour late because they're usually 3
Yeah.
hours, 4
Yeah.
hours, whatever it may be. But I want the inspector to get into the house a little bit before I show up and like cause a distraction almost, right? But I want to be there for the rest of it. And so I give you the ability to get started, get into your groove, so I'm not turning a 3-hour situation into an 8-hour situation.
Yep.
But then, and that's kind of just what I tell my clients to do as well.
Right.
You know?
Well, and when I go at the end is I ask, you know, because I kind of wait more towards the end because you're going to now be ready to write your report, and I just ask what are some of the things that we need to be concerned about.
Yeah.
And I'll go into the crawl space with them. I'll go into the attic with them. I will go outside and, you know, dig up whatever we need to do to see, because how can I help and explain to my buyers what I heard about? I
'Cause
need
they
to
may have
hear
heard
what I
something
saw.
else. Clients sometimes hear something else, and then to your point, or to both of your point, my client will show up to the inspection and take measurements. I'm like, that's not what we're here for. You know, like,
Well, they
we're
can.
gonna I know, but they're like, ooh, I want to put this here, and I want to decorate here. Will the couch fit here? We'll put the TV here, and I'm like, hey, we're talking about asbestos in the basement right now. If anybody wants to come down, you know,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
so like I need to be there because them being there alone without guidance can also create an issue because they just aren't present, even though
Yeah.
they're there, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Get
It's-
them to concentrate on what the reason is.
Yeah.
Well, it's
being
pretty
done.
common for me to find something and then have to go find the client and
Yeah.
hey, let me show you something, right? And that's the conversation because I know they're not going to be with me the whole time. But yeah, to get their attention and then hey, let's go look at this, and I can explain it, especially if it's something that I feel is pretty big.
Yeah. Do you ever? This just like irks me. I don't know why. The thing I don't know why I've grabbed onto this is this thing that bugs me is this going to pass inspection? This whole idea of pass fail, like it's
Yes.
gym class,
Right,
and I'm like,
right.
that's not
That-
a thing.
so-
There's not a pass fail here.
We get that question.
Yeah.
I used to get, would you buy this house?
Oh God.
Like, who's paying for it?
Right, well, exactly. That's my response. I mean,
I really need 5
and you
bedrooms.
just have to. Yeah, it's like I already own a house. I don't need, or I. And this is showing my age now. I'm starting to get. Would you let your son or daughter, depending on
Ouch.
if it's the parent, would you let your son buy this house? My son is 15, so no, he doesn't have the income to be able to afford this house, right? And so you have to, even does this pass? You have to play it off,
Yeah.
and help them understand. I usually do it with a joke to lighten the mood, but to help them understand this is a pass fail. I have no authority here. My job is to give information,
Yeah.
and your job as the agent is to help them process that information so they get the best deal that they can get.
Because technically, then every house would fail because there's something
Right.
at every
Every single
house,
one.
Including
every
new
single house,
build.
including
So
new
let's
construction.
talk about new construction because I am a high proponent of the 3-phase. So tell us how you go about
Yep.
it. But the new build house doesn't mean it's perfect when it's done. It's nowhere near. And I have a client right now that refused to do one, and she's got a serious roof issue. And she refused because it was $350. I tried to just at least get her to do the last one, $350. And she's now going to be in court with the builder because they're saying there's nothing wrong and they're fighting back and forth about it. I'm like, $350 would have saved us all a lot of headache.
Yeah.
But what are your
Sure.
how do you
Yeah.
do
So
those?
we offer what's called a 3-phase inspection. So the first phase is the foundation. All right. So we would come out, whether basement, slab, crawl space, doesn't matter. Once the foundation's finished and before they start building and the framing on top of it. All right. Phase 2 is a framing inspection, pre-drywall is also called, where we're going to come out, check all the rough-in plumbing, rough-in HVAC vents, all that stuff behind the walls before it gets covered with insulation and then
still see it.
drywall. Right. While we can see it. And then the third phase is just a standard home inspection. It's usually happening about the same time as the walkthrough for the house. When they're putting up the blue tape or whatever color they
Yeah,
use.
they don't like me with blue tape because I'm pretty picky.
And the difference there is I'm not doing the blue tape. I'm not looking at cosmetic items. That's not my job. But what we're finding are just things that either the builder is not done with yet or has missed. Most of the time they're fairly small. Every once in a while we do find something bigger, but we're just an extra set of eyes.
And none of it's intentional.
And most of the time the
Trades.
construction
Yeah.
manager.
It's humans
human.
building this
Yes.
house.
There's a human element
Well,
to
and
all
I
of it.
also want to say too, in my experience with whatever builder I'm working with, they throw in that tight timeline of, okay, pre-drywall inspection has to be today. We're drywalling tomorrow. And if you as an agent are not on top of paying attention to
You'll miss
when
it.
is that
Yep.
week
Yeah.
coming, the drywall gets put up. And so that
You got to
also-
be a month out knowing when it's coming.
But you have to keep
really
asking
do.
them, when are you going
do.
to let me go, and then get a hold of your
Well-
inspector and say they're giving me like 4-day window, and you've
And we'll
always
even-
been really good about that
Well,
too.
we actually will get the construction manager's information
Yeah.
and communicate with them also.
Yeah.
So now we've got
It's very helpful.
the buyer, the agent, and the inspection company all communicate. I'm sure the construction manager's just like, I've told you. Yeah, but it's going to move, right? They're going to give us a 2-week window. Okay, we're going to call at the beginning of that 2 weeks. Okay, can you narrow it down until we get an actual date where we can be out there?
That brings up something I want to talk about. We say this all the time: is if you're building a new build, you must have a real estate agent in on the transaction, or you're going to have some issues that you don't know how to handle. And one of those is what you just said. Is I'm sure the construction manager does not appreciate the fact that the agent's on them, the inspector's on them. There's multiple eyes on this property. And we're the ones that are constantly saying, here's this, here's that, what's going on. You that don't have real estate agents and don't have inspectors going in, you're the quiet mouse, they're going to push you to the side. They're not going to pay attention to you. So if you have an agent, know that we're all here, the inspectors are all here. And the last one for the third phase, if you don't get that one done in time, they don't let you do it. They've done their walkthrough and we're closing in a couple of days. And so if you
Most
have
builders
people-
too, they will just take the inspection as a punch list.
Yes.
Exactly.
And they just
Yep.
knock it out.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
so
A good construction
take it to the
manager
walkthrough, yeah.
is happy I'm there,
Yeah.
right? There's like, okay, just let me know what you find, and we'll take care
Right.
of it.
And
It's
we'll knock
another
it out.
set of eyes. The way the climate is now with building, too many houses, not enough construction managers.
very fast
They
builds.
cannot. Oh, and then trades that are not experienced. The construction managers can't be in every house every
Nonstop.
day. They're missing stuff, and that's where we just want to come in and help.
I have a question. So, first phase, what type of problems do you find when it's just the slab or foundation and no framing?
Okay, most of the time, if we're going to find an issue, it's going to be grading. Okay, so just at that point, if it's a basement, again, there's an 8-foot hole in the ground still.
Yeah.
But we can tell even at that point whether the house has been set high enough compared to the others that is the water going to flow away from the house when they finish. Okay, and not that they're going to tear the basement out and fix it, but I did a condo in Fishers a few years ago where I could just tell, okay, I think it was 4 townhomes and 4 townhomes. Well, the one I'm inspecting here and the one next door is 15 feet from it and 2 feet above it.
Oh, I was just gonna
Okay,
say it right there.
so all the water from this one's going down to the one I'm inspecting. I don't expect them to fix it, but fix the elevation. What I do expect them is to control the groundwater. Okay,
Get the drainage.
and I can, because what the builder's going to want to do is when they go to put the siding, they're going to build the whole thing out. The last thing they do is grading and sod. They're just going to build the grading and sod up to the point where it's actually touching and covering the siding or the weep holes in the brick.
Right.
You can't do that. That's going to cause problems down the road. So even at a phase 1, a foundation inspection, coming in and going, hey, we're going to have some grading issues here that you're going to have to take care of. All right, when we come to the phase 2, hey, you're going to have some grading issues here. When we get to the final, they can't tell me, oh, no, it'll be fine. No, it's not fine. I've been telling you for 6 months at this point that we have an issue. Okay, so the earlier we can point it out, the better. The other one, you can get into some with the foundation, like the plumbing is roughed in, and we have had some where the sewer line is sloped improperly, and then it's going to get covered in concrete, and no one's ever going to know until something starts backing up. So, yeah, those are simple items. But really, for the cost of a phase 1 inspection, that peace of mind is worth it. Yeah.
Well, the cost to fix what the problem was that wasn't found
Oh,
is going to be
right.
a lot worse.
Exactly.
So getting to the third phase, I've heard more and more, and I really like this idea, is obviously we have a 1-year warranty, and at the end of the 12 months, that warranty is going to disappear. So I highly think, too, that having an inspector come in at 11 months and check the house one more time.
Right, and this is the way I look at this. We are more than willing to do that. I personally have only ever done that one time, and I didn't think I provided a great value to the client because she'd already been through all 3 phases. By the time we got to the 11th month, I think there was 1 or 2 things I pointed out, but everything had already been fixed.
Yeah.
So now, what I will say, for clients who didn't get a final inspection, right, didn't go through the process, and now they're coming up on their 1 year. Yes, have the inspection done. And I'm not saying if you did all 3, don't do the 11-month. But the one I've done, part of me was sitting there just, how much value did I bring here?
Yeah. But it's a peace of mind of that warranty disappearing and 13
was peace
months
of mind,
later you're
right.
going,
It was peace of mind for her.
Yeah.
But we'd already caught everything at the
That's the whole
other
idea.
inspections.
And it doesn't mean that something's not going to be a problem in a year from now either.
Right,
Correct.
yeah. Well,
It's
the
just
house
like,
does get older.
Yeah, exactly. So but, you know that it hasn't been a lingering issue because of that 1 year that you guys did. So it's not a lingering issue. It's a new issue. So it's less concern because let's just fix it. It just happened, right? Versus being like, well, how long has this been going on? What other problems have I not missed, right? So it's peace of mind. That's what
So
it comes down
have
to.
either of you had this come up? There are builders, and I will not say names, who are limiting.
I'll say names. No, just kidding.
Who are limiting the number of third-party inspections in their contract.
Yes.
So
yes.
there's a builder that I know is limiting to one. You can only have 1 third-party inspection. I've heard of another builder limiting to 0, not allowed at all. Have you either of you or your
I
clients
have not
come across
heard that.
Okay.
I have come across it with one of my buyers just this last year, and it didn't go well.
Okay. Well, I'm going to throw out a loophole here. Okay. So if they're limiting to 1 inspection, get the phase 2 done. That's, in my opinion, the phase 2 is very important. Close on the house. Have the inspection company come back out.
I like it.
Because as soon as the house is yours, you can have anybody look at it that you want.
That's true. And then it's under warranty.
And depending on the builder, like I just did a house in Kokomo, and they basically said, hey, we're responsible for the first 30 days. So if you find something,
I love that idea.
if you find something,
that would have been
call
a great
us.
way to go about it because I was like hot-headed for a little bit.
You? No. I bet you handled that so well, Shelly.
I try to handle it nicely.
Now, right,
Try.
and even
At first.
until I still get pushed back. I'm like,
Right.
I don't understand this.
That's a good play
Are
on
you
it.
afraid though? I'm like, are you afraid of what people find all the time? So you're like, we have to limit it.
No,
We
what it
used to
is
allow
it
30.
adds to costs, right? And they're trying to
The
get costs
timeline.
down, timelines down. You know, I mean, I can make a million different reasons for it, and it's understandable. But at the end of the day, we've really pivoted as a society as a whole, where we're no longer product based. We are customer service based, and there's just some industries who are lagging there that think they're still product based. When there's so many options, you're a customer service company. That's anybody who sells a product is customer service first, and a lot of people, because of lack of competition in the past, have not pivoted quickly enough. And the ones that pivot the quickest on that are the ones that will have long-term success, in my opinion, because of the amount of options in everything anymore.
Well, and I've been doing this for 16 years almost, and I will say that when I first started, I heard 2 names as builders in town. Like,
Yeah.
Barely heard 3. And now I'm, whatever, 9, 10, I don't know. Plus all the
Who was
custom
it?
builders that are out
Moses and Abraham Lincoln. My bad.
there.
That was too low. That was low hanging fruit.
My
Sorry.
memory was Davis and Estridge.
Esther's,
Yeah.
both of which are still here.
Yeah. So those are the ones that is like, if you're going to build with, they were the 2. And so they, they could do whatever. They didn't do. They were both good builders.
They were
so,
good builders. That's why
yeah.
they had survived.
Yeah,
And that's why they're still
here
today.
Yeah. My other question for you then is, in regards to when to do an inspection on these things, is the pre-list, and we talk about this on the podcast. All the time.
Pre-list inspections. This is
Yeah.
a whole thing.
Yeah,
It was
for
not.
me,
It was not pre-COVID. I never heard this until COVID, for the record.
well,
like
it's
a major
because of
thing.
that no inspections are being allowed, or if you're going to say that it's an as-is, show the inspection that you fixed everything, so the buyer is more apt to make an offer on your house and go through with it, because they don't want to find out 3 weeks later that there's all these issues with the house. So today, I still have all my sellers do a pre-list inspection, because I feel that it's the same situation. I don't want this, this unbelievable issue that comes up that nobody had an idea about, that the buyer freaks and walks, and we're back on the market. $350, $450 is a huge life saving for a seller to not get put back on the market and lose a lot more money than $400, $450.
This is an interesting one for me. I waffle on this. I know you don't. But you've also been doing it longer than me, so I defer to you, because sometimes I'm like, with my clients at least, well, they're just going to find something else different anyways, right? Because 2 inspectors can do an inspection on the same house and get slightly different results.
Slightly different
not
results.
majorly
Hopefully,
different,
both of
but
them will
slightly
catch
different.
the majors.
Right.
Majors is what
Hopefully.
matters, right? It's a tough one. It's a really tough one, because sometimes, like, to me, as a list agent, I would want to get one because I know already ahead of time how I'm going to negotiate.
And
My
what you can put on
inspection.
your seller's disclosure
Correct.
as well. Say,
Correct.
we already know there's blah, blah, blah wrong with this house, and the buyer has the decision at that point to decide if they even make an offer. But the thing that we talked, you said you want to talk about mold versus mildew and all of that. This
Ooh,
is
yes.
the proper one, is for my sellers, I tell them, you don't crawl around in your attic, you don't crawl around in your crawl space, and if there's mold up there or down there, the buyers could potentially just blow the deal up because it scares the living crap out of them that there's
Yeah.
mold in the house. Otherwise, you just remediate it and then go on the market, and that won't be something that scares the buyer.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I got a phone call about a house that we had sold, and it original builder's linoleum was down, right? And somebody bought the house. I mean, this house is, I don't know, 20 years old. And new person put in new flooring, pulled up linoleum, and there's some mold right outside of the shower, right? And it's like, there's mold. And I'm like, how would I know that's there? It's the original flooring, and it's the shower,
Right.
which is going to have moisture. Like, well, should have known. Like, how? I mean, I could make that assumption on every house then, and then, like, am I getting what do we do here?
so there's your ancillary air quality test for these
Yeah.
buyers right off the bat.
I'll be honest, like, would that even pop up? I mean, I'm talking about like a 3x6 area
No.
by like where it's coming out of the pan into.
It depends on how active it is. So my first thought is,
Right.
as you were telling that story, I'm shaking my head. Yes, like, well,
That's
of
like
course-
every
well,
house.
Of course, there was mold.
Yeah.
When you pull up the floor, water's getting from under the shower, and it's causing an issue. If there's no visual signs of it, no one's finding that. It could, but my first place that I'm pulling an air quality sample is not in the bathroom. Okay, it's
Yeah.
probably, if it's a basement, it's always in the basement, or in an area. So no, I mean, there's a good chance, and chances are that was just surface mold. That can
Oh, there we go. All right, we get to get into the mold
Yeah.
thing. Surface
Yeah.
mold
Yeah.
versus black mold
Right.
versus
versus
mildew.
mildew versus
Yeah.
what do you put
Oh,
on your
my
report?
goodness.
All right, disclaimer here. I am not a mold professional. I am just a home inspector. So we use the term signs of possible mold. Okay. We're not supposed to call it mold without testing it. So I've given myself 2 caveats: signs of possible, right? Mold. I prefer to use the M word, mold,
Instead of biological
instead
growth.
of biological growth, or microbial growth is the other one that we see a lot. I prefer.
So you're
to-
you're the reason you scare my clients.
Well, I
just
prefer to use it to open up that
the conversation. Yeah, 100%.
Instead of
100%. That
instead
makes
of
sense.
a client not understand. Well, I don't know what microbial growth is, and looking over it and not realizing what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I would mold. Well, everyone knows what that is. Okay. Well, now I can talk about it.
And
okay.
then the next sentence is,
Right. Hey. Well.
Contact a professional.
Well, we need to bring a
Yeah.
professional in, but I can verbally give my opinion on. Hey, I've been in a lot of crawl spaces. There's some mold down there. It really should be cleaned up, but we also need what's causing it. Right? Why
right.
is it happening?
Can't just
Let's
get
get
rid
it
of it.
cleaned up. Let's address those issues and move on. But truthfully, I've seen way worse because I've always seen way worse.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
There was a house I once did. The bank had made me sign a waiver before I could go in and inspect the house.
2008 to 2011.
Yes, exactly.
Yes,
I've
yes,
been in
yes.
one of those.
And I wore my respirator every time I walked in the house and set my computer up out in the garage with the garage door open. And it just went back and forth, and it was gross.
I've been in one of those, and for the record, I'm an idiot. I'll just put that out there. I wore nothing
Yeah,
protective,
I can't do that.
and
get
I
bad
survived
fast.
and did not get sick.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's the other thing. Like I'm a big proponent of looking into mold. Mold is a very, very serious issue. I don't think you're gonna keel over on the spot.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert. I am
It
also
does-
not a mold expert for the
In
record.
those houses, we had to sign those waivers. My first,
I've signed a waiver
I was
for it.
new.
Yeah.
2008 was when I started. I was new, and getting those, I would sign them and walk in. You know, I'm cool. I don't have to worry about this. I would have severe allergy reaction.
I've had
within
one.
10, 15 minutes, and
So-
I don't walk into them anymore. I tell my buyer, "You're welcome to, but I physically cannot do it."
I've walked into one that didn't require a waiver but had mold, and I had a headache. I did have
Yeah.
a headache.
Well, and
That's-
I've had
that's
this happen.
but-
I'm 2 hours into the inspection. Client shows up, and they walk in, have been there 5 minutes, and just look at me and I don't feel well. Oh, all right. Maybe you should go out and get some fresh air. I had not been in the crawl space yet. It's the last thing we do. There was a mold problem in the crawl space, and
Yeah.
her reaction was within 5 minutes.
Some
I
people
don't feel
are
well.
way more hypersensitive to
exactly.
stuff.
Exactly.
I mean,
I
I've got
smell
people
it
who are
when I walk in.
hyperallergenic that
Yeah,
I've had
yeah.
to deal with, and it's like you have to treat it differently. I mean, it's a major issue.
Well,
It's
these
a
are the
major
two
issue.
things where I get you're supposed to be working with your other agents, right?
Yeah.
Trying to
Mm-hmm.
help each other. So two things I can walk into a house and smell is mold and gas. I just have a really strong nose for that, and I will go and find it. And normally it's one of the couplings is off on the furnace or the water heater or something like that. And I will go and find it, and I will take a picture and I'll tell them exactly.
I'm gonna have you come on my inspections.
Mine
from
is
now on.
mine is cat pee and smoke.
Well, I
Like,
can
they're a
spell
little
that.
bit more
I
obvious.
can spell that too. But I will literally take a picture and tell them your client has a gas leak. They've got infants in the house. I don't know what.
I've done
They've got
that,
dogs. And they go, "What makes you the expert?" Some smart ass remark back to me, and I'm like, "I'm
Common
just telling
sense.
you, they live here. Please just tell your seller. Let
A
them
lot of
make a
times
dec-
it's a furnace. You know, it's
yeah,
in there. It's
but it's
around
happening, and they're
utilities.
living there.
Yeah.
But basically, they're usually behind a closed door. So the 2nd you
Oh,
open it,
exactly.
you know.
Waft.
The natural gas, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then the other thing is when I smell mold in the basement, and it's pretty bad, I can smell it. I mean, I'm not going to go crawl space and find it or anything, but I'll tell them, I think you better try and find out if you have mold in the house, you know, in case there are buyers that come in that get affected by it. And they're the same, 90% of agents don't want to hear it. I still tell them, I'm not trying to be a know-it-all, but I just think it's something that we should help each other.
Yeah, it's just about, rising tide lifts all boats, right? Make everybody better. The one that I see more than black mold, which, like we said before we started this, black mold really became an issue around a 60 Minutes segment back in like 2008. And it kind of has taken off as wildfire, as nomenclature, which is fine. It's caused education. It's not a big deal. But I see more white mold than I see black mold, quite honestly.
And it's funny.
Especially in crawl spaces.
Yeah.
I just see way more.
Even though I'm not a mold professional, we do air quality tests, right?
You still know more than a layman, for the
I know how to
record.
pull the samples.
Yeah.
I take them to the lab. They're the professionals. They do a spore count on the actual sample, and then they send a report back. And there's 20 different types of mold listed
Yeah.
with the spore counts. And maybe on 2 of those are they considered
Issues.
the black mold toxic. Not issues, but the black mold toxic.
Because there's
that
black
people have
mold that is not the black mold
Correct.
people think it is.
Correct. Exactly.
You know what looks like a lot
Exactly.
like black
Right.
mold? Mildew. Sorry.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the
yeah.
whole thing, especially
On
in
the-
showers.
on the
There's
caulk in
black
a
mold
shower.
in the
Yeah.
shower. I'm like, there's not. This is
Well,
mildew.
and this is why we're not supposed to call stuff mold.
Yeah.
Unless we test it, is to avoid that type of thing.
Yeah. I'm also not a mildew expert either, though, for the record. Because I'm like, that's not mold,
Right,
it's
right.
mildew. Like, what do you know about mildew? Not much. I just know that's not mold.
But on any of this, right, you alluded to it, we're going to recommend
An expert.
bringing a contractor, and that's where you have to have contractors you trust. I have contractors I trust.
Right.
As far as, hey, we got an issue coming in here. I need you, especially with mold, I need you to come take a look.
Well, and usually
then-
we're under
and
the gun to get
yes.
the response back out too. So once we get the report from you, is to immediately have our vendors that we can immediately say, please go check the mold, please go check the electricity, please go check this. We need to know what we're going to tell the seller.
Which
Because
I
I have
always-
another thing, a problem with, who I talk about all the time, is do not turn it all over to the seller to figure out.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get an answer you don't like, and
Get
you're
your
going to
own
have to
info.
figure it out. You know.
Yeah, especially when it comes to remediation of that. Because you can find stuff that's $700 remediation or a $4,000 remediation.
right.
It's somewhere in between, right? But
Or they'll go
and
in and say they can do it with a bleach rag, so that doesn't work either.
right. It's just it's
I
it's
wanna-
a hot button topic. That's all.
I know we need to get to our stats, but I wanted to see, have you ever had buyers that literally just throughout the process, you keep talking about things coming up and they just literally go, I'm out?
I have. All right, so I'll a few quick ones here. One happened to my inspector. I'm glad it didn't happen to me. And it wasn't she was out, but it was a young lady, first-time home buyer. He's going through the report with her, and she started crying. Okay, I was not there, but the only reason I know this, as soon as he got in his truck, he called me, Shane, you're going to get a call. I just need you to know this. Okay, I was going through, I was, just giving the information. I swear I didn't say anything. I was like, I trust you. It's not a big deal. And she started crying. Oh, okay. And that is one where I don't know if we could have done anything differently, but on that particular one, that agent probably should have been there with that
Well, I was gonna
client
say, agent would have been
to
helpful.
manage that situation better. So on mine, I
'Cause
was
she already trusts the agent, hopefully.
right, exactly. Just to help explain things, because she was very emotional. Okay, I have one where it's probably been 10 years ago. Was doing the inspection, and it was a wood foundation on a basement. Okay, I've only ever seen one or two of those. Generally, wood foundations
There's
are
a
crawl
whole
spaces.
neighborhood in Noblesville. I
Well,
have
but they're
found.
usually
Yeah,
crawl
I've done that.
spaces.
And then that's super interesting because
Yes.
the HVAC is run through it.
Uh-huh.
And so like there's no ductwork.
There's no ductwork.
Yeah.
It's really
So-
neat. It was a whole thing back
Right.
in like what was it, early 90s.
Oh, was it 90s? I don't
It-
remember.
yeah,
But
yeah. The
Yeah,
I
one
don't,
there's-
want, I don't
was.
want anything to do with it.
There's a couple neighborhoods in Noblesville. There's a couple neighborhoods in Greenwood. But this particular one was a wood foundation on a full basement.
That's kooky.
Okay, and so my job is to explain this to him, knowing it's probably not something they've ever seen. And as we're going through it, he goes, "Hey, I really appreciate it. I'm not buying this house." I go, "Okay, well, there's nothing wrong with the wood foundation. They're designed with marine grade lumber." I mean, I'm throwing out all this stuff. No, he was dead set. But at that point, I had given him the information. He had made his decision. I probably would have taken a little longer to think about it. But his real issue, I don't think, was with the foundation as much as resale.
Yeah.
Not wanting to have to
That
deal
is-
with it on the
yeah.
other end.
There's not enough education about it because it was a small window and it was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
The one we did, my client did purchase this. This was years ago. But, the house was, 30, 40 years old. Zero problems with the wood.
Well, and if you ever
Zero.
get into it again, just Google Melody Homes. Almost every
Yes.
Yeah.
wood foundation we find around here
Right.
is a Melody home.
Mm-hmm.
The most interesting part is when they're crawl spaces and there's no ductwork, and it's used as a huge plenum to just force the air
It's
out.
kooky.
That's another really weird one, but it was engineered to work like that.
Yeah, and it worked.
It works.
And it works. Yeah.
All right,
I
can I
don't know. There's one other thing I was going to ask you. Now I've totally forgot it, so this is going to be really weird.
I have one.
Actually,
I
I was
wanna
going
know.
to. It
Go
wasn't
ahead.
even about like a question. I have had an inspection once, only once, and he did tell my buyer not to buy the house.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Interesting.
and I fully support it because the water was shut off. We were in a situation where it was a lower priced home, and we had issues, as far as liquidity and stuff like that. And the water is shut off in the house, and there's a massive water leak while we're sitting here looking at it.
Yeah.
Right, and we just know there's going to be this massive issue, and we also have no idea how long this has been going
Right,
on,
right.
because it was present when we got there and could not be fixed while we were there. and the people who own the house did not know about it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that was like very case. I obviously, an inspector would never do that. This was a very unique situation. And I super respected that he did that because he's like, based on your situation, this is going to be more than you can.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I generally don't know financial situation.
Yeah.
So no, my response there is, are you prepared to fix this and any damage?
That's how it went.
Done?
Like
well,
it
exactly,
was
yes.
a detailed conversation.
Yes.
It wasn't like yo run.
well, and if-
like it was
right. And
it was a whole conversation.
And
It
if
was
the
like,
agent
this
is
gonna be
there
an
and
issue.
we're having this conversation between the three of us, and I'm getting more information,
Yeah.
and I'm feeling that the agent's going
Yeah.
like, oh yeah,
I-
okay,
I don't
yeah,
know how many
that's-
times I've told my buyers,
Right.
we're not buying this
Right.
house.
So
Yeah.
it's the same thing. And so
Yeah.
it's like, I think sometimes there's this misnomer. Like you know, inspectors aren't here to do the wrong thing. They're here to
Right.
do the right thing. We're not here to like beat people up. Like I'm trying to educate people and make people comfortable and feel safe with the largest transaction of their life.
Right.
Right. That's what you're there for. You're not there to make deals far apart. You're
Nope.
not there to be leverage within negotiating. And that's what I feel like the perception is of your industry. And I think that is entirely inaccurate.
Right. We are there to provide information.
Yep.
Yep.
One more question. Sellers being present.
Oh gosh. Specifically, we call those FSBOs.
Yes.
Sorry, for
Yeah.
sale by
So,
owners.
in my opinion, it's a big no. Sellers
too.
should not
Mm-hmm.
be present. What over the years I've kind of learned, it's not for my benefit. I can do my inspection with the sellers there. It's for the buyer's benefit, for them to spend more time in the house. So when the sellers are there and the buyers are there also, I'll have to pull the buyers aside and say, hey, usually I would talk to you throughout this process.
Yeah, you can't.
You're going to notice I'm being very quiet,
Yeah.
and I'm picking and choosing the times when we're going to discuss. And it's because I don't want them to. This information is not for them.
Yeah.
But I have navigated that many times. I have asked the sellers to leave the room when we're actually going through the inspection at the end. It can be done, but it's way easier for the seller just to go see a movie.
Yeah.
Dude, there's just no way a seller will not minimize an issue.
Right.
Zero chance.
No.
Zero
Right.
chance.
Or,
And then
or get angry and like be ready to call the deal off themselves because they're like
Right.
they're going to
There's
come back
too
and
many
ask for all
emotions.
these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that happens all the time. It's a 5-minute fix. It costs me nothing. Like
We were just
sweet.
talking about 2008 through 2010. I highly recommend a movie I just saw on Netflix, 99 Houses. It actually gave me a little PTSD when I was in business from 2008, 9, and 10. Didn't really realize what I was going through at the time where I walked into these houses with the mold remediation, the children's toys all over the house. Highly recommend it if you're an agent and you actually were in the business during that time period. Even if you weren't, it's 99 Houses on Netflix. So I don't get any money for saying that. I'm just saying
Maybe we should.
it was interesting. It was a great movie to see what was happening in that time period and to look back. Maybe we'll have movies now about 2020 to 2022.
Oh, we for sure will.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for
We
coming.
could
You wanna
keep
give your
going
info
and
again?
going and going.
Oh, yeah, Shane Peterson, Home Experts of Indiana.
Phone number, email.
Yep, 317-933-1000 is the phone number. You can reach us online at homeexpertsofindiana.com or email our office at homeexperts.homes.
Awesome. Thank you so
Homes.
much.
I
Highly
like that.
recommend working with Shane. So let's get to our stats. We're going long today. In Carmel, this is the last 7 days. So this is January 1st to the 8th, roughly. 24 houses activated in this past 7 days. That seems like a lot for the year. Just starting out. 7 of those did pend, and a total of 16 pended in the past week. So I think that's kind of good. 86 sold in the past 30 days. I want to go back. That 16 that pended, it was a 57 days average and 51 median. So those are getting really high these past 7 days. Days on market for the sold in the past 86 was average of 30, median of 20. So you see it's gone up over 50, almost 50% in the just this past week. List to sale ratio is down to 97% on those past 30 days sales. There's 108 active. 30 of those are new builds, so 30% in Carmel are new builds. In Westfield, 24 activated, 7 of those pended, and 25 total pended this past week, which is a lot. Bet their average days on market in the past 7 days was 68 with an average of 43. And then there's 89 active. the average day for the past 30 days was 35 and 16. So we are seeing days on market go up about 50%, like I said. Their list to sale ratio was at 97% as well. Currently active in Westfield, 180. 63% of those are new build at 113. So lots of new builds still. Then in Zionsville, 5 hit the market. 3 of those were new builds. 2 pended. Both of those were the new builds. 4 total pended. Average days on market, 77 and a median of 49. Past 30 days, 26 sold. 4 of those were new builds. Average days on market, 44, median 10. So again, doubled the days on market in this past, 3 weeks past where they were before. 99 list to sale ratio in Zionsville. There's 42 active, 19 are new builds, so about 50% are new builds in Zionsville. So high numbers of new builds, except for Carmel's a little lower.
I think that's going to keep going up. For me, I did all the way back to the beginning of the year because I just am an overachiever.
Well, today's the 9th, if we look
So
at
I went
that.
2
So you
extra
went,
days.
yeah, you went an extra 2 days.
Hey,
you
it
overachiever.
matters. It matters.
You overachiever.
I did more than you. It's weird. Okay, so first of all, before I even jump into this, so I mean, you got to think we automatically are almost adding 2 weeks to this days on market, right? Because of
Yeah.
the holidays,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah,
like,
and
I want
there's
to
a
take it with a
reasoning.
grain of
Yeah.
salt, right? We're also about to get a major snowstorm, according to the weather alerts. Although it could end up just being rain and
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
inaccurate. Like who knows? But
Don't you want that job? You can be wrong every day and still get a job, have your job.
I already have that. It's called being married. I'm sorry. Sorry, I had to say that. It was just too easy of a joke. I'm sorry. It was awesome. Okay, sorry, Jess. Anyways, but rates have trickled back up actually a little bit right now. There's a lot of things that go into that, but they had come down a little bit. And I'll also say, like, we're always busy this time of year. I think that's just the volume we do. Same with you. I actually feel busier than normal right now than I usually do as far as like with people out there because I think last year was so uncertain.
Yeah.
People
Everybody's
have
waiting.
acclimated to it being a little bit more certain now. So I see people coming out already for the spring market. In Fishers, I had 13. This is in the past 9 days. 13 went on the market. 11 of them are still active. So literally like only 2 of the new ones pinned, right? But I had 14 pins, so negative inventory. But I have 58 days on market in Fishers, right? And here's an interesting one. Median is 62, so the median is actually higher. And there's 111 active on the market in Fishers. I looked at houses yesterday, and 2 days ago. So 2 days ago are the ones I was thinking of. I looked at houses that were 77 days on market, 155 days on market. And it was just very, I got agents reaching out to me like, hey, are you interested? I'm like,
Yeah, I'm starting to get those
yeah,
emails.
I'm starting to get that stuff.
Yeah.
But
You looked at this 4 months ago. Is your buyer still possibly interested? We dropped it 5,000.
yeah. And like to me, like I don't care about the price to a certain extent because I'll just lowball you. You don't have to drop price for me. I'll drop it for you. It's not that big of a deal. But and then in Noblesville, we have 27 on the market. 24 of them are still active. So only 3 pended within that 9-day period. That were listed and pended within 9 days. 18 actually pended. There's 124 on the market. Average days on market's 57, median's 49. So we're close to like 60 days on market right now in Fishers and Noblesville.
And that's into December, January. So
Yeah.
it's a seasonal thing as well.
It's a seasonal thing. We were coming up off of a crest of high interest rates, and then it went down. So I'm curious to see where we'll be at in 30 days.
Yeah, me too.
Because, a lot of people did go out and buy when we were down into the 6.6 range, right? So that'll be an interesting number here as we come up on it in, another 10 days, we'll call it, something like that. But it's going to be bad this year.
I was
I
going
don't
to
want
say,
to
you
say
don't
bad.
sound very optimistic.
Well, I'm actually insanely optimistic for like what the market will do as a whole for people. I'm not optimistic for my work-life balance, I guess, if that makes sense, because, so I have a buyer right now in a couple of these houses, we've looked at. I'm like, all right, hey, we can go tomorrow, whatever it is. And I got sent one this morning. I was like, we have to go see this today. Like, this house will not make it through the weekend.
There's still those out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so, but you have to be on top of it enough to know which ones you can kind of wait and kind of which ones you can't. And you start looking at something that's $350,000 with a basement in Noblesville. Like, good luck replicating that, right? I was like, we have to go now. He's like, well, I'm
And
not
plan on
available
a multiple offer, yeah.
Right. He's like, well, I'm taking the wife first, and then if she likes it, then we're coming right back after it. But we have to be there quickly, and we need to be engaged quickly.
One of my buyer's agents took a client out a couple days ago, and she came back to me and she said she had some questions about writing the offer and everything, and she said they're due Sunday at noon, and I went, what? I haven't heard that in at least 6 months. And I said, did they put that information in the listing and thinking they were like, do they not sell houses very often? They're still back on that bandwagon. She goes, no, they already have 3 offers, and it only been on the market for 2 days. And I'm thinking, oh, that was just a weird thing to hear. I hadn't heard that in so long.
I will say I'm very curious to see how that plays out this spring. So that became a huge issue 2 years ago, right? Hey, it goes on the market Thursday, showing start Friday, all offers due by noon, right? Last year, there was a buck back against that, where it was like, I'm not trying to bleed people out, just come with your best offer. Mm-hmm. And there were people, because I beat them, or like I had listings, right? And my seller would just be like, man, they put their best foot forward. It's a really good deal. Like, I'm not trying to bleed out for another 10 or 15. I don't have
to have 50 showings come through my house.
And if you don't know that as a buyer's agent and educating your buyers to like put their best foot forward from the jump, and then we'll figure out if we can do anything extra, you may lose it because somebody else just did it. And they're like, yeah, like, I know we said noon, but like, they don't have to do that. No, like, they can literally just say, we changed our mind at any moment, and they're not obligated to that. Yep. And then you got a buyer who's got flat on their feet, and they're not going to be happy with you. So I'm curious to see which way it pivots this year, because it was super big on highest and best by noon. And then last year, I feel like we got away from it because it felt so greedy that year that sellers became compassionate and quit doing it as much. So I don't know. I'm just curious. That's just kind of random thought.
Really, people ask, what do you think is going to happen? And I have no idea.
I know prices are going up. That's what I know.
Still, yeah. When's the best time to buy?
Yesterday.
Thanks so much for joining us, you guys. Thanks for sticking with us. I know it's a little longer, but what?
Did you do the stats?
I did do the stats. Thank you very much,
Raquel.
Everybody, that's Raquel. Raquel. We're just going to call this a day. I'm Kyle Morris with Morris Property Group and FC Tucker. My number is 317-649-5122.
I'm Shelly Walters with the FC Tucker Company and the Shelly Walters Realty Group. My cell phone's 317-201-2601. Thank you so much for joining us at the beginning of the new year. And Shane, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
All right. Happy New Year. Enjoy the snow next week.
Bye.